Kallor, whose full name is Kallor Idaran Tesula, is the self-declared High King claiming to live for millennia, and he declares that he once ruled an empire that he himself ultimately destroyed. While on campaign, he travels everywhere with an ornate ironwood throne. He is tall and gaunt and looks exceptionally old. His narrow face is dark and lined, ravaged by age, and his long grey hair hangs about his back and shoulders. He has dull, pale, lifeless eyes beneath thin brows, a gravelly voice, pallid skin, and usually carries a sneering look of disdain on his face. Kallor wears an ancient, oft-mended, full-length chain surcoat that falls to halfway between his knees and ankles, with a slit in the front and a dull grey helmet. He wears scaled gauntlets. His weapon of choice is a plain hand-and-a-half sword, also known as a bastard sword, which he wears strapped to his back in a scarred wooden scabbard over his left shoulder. The sword has a broad cross hilt and a worn grip and nicked pommel. His tactical genius is legendary, and he possesses an instinctive mastery of the sweep and shift of vast campaigns, and he claims not to face defeat in 100,000 years. But he can barely disguise his own disinterest in such contests, earning him grudging respect from his troops, but not their loyalty. He has a hatred for sorcery, preferring to rely on the natural arcana of alchemy. He sees himself as a hunter who lays in wait for decades or centuries of interminable boredom, while the children around him grow blind to his danger. Then, when the moment is right, he acts explosively and with certainty. The long-lived High King no longer dreams each night, reminding him of his fears of oblivion. Kallor is notable for his pessimism, ruthlessness, and his indomitable will. Known for his tragic history and his curse of immortality, Kallor embodies the themes of despair and futility that are prevalent throughout the Malazan world. Kallor's history is steeped in tragedy and destruction. He once ruled over a vast empire known as the Kallorian Empire, which was said to have spanned 1,000 cities and 1,000,000 soldiers. However, in his hubris and paranoia, Kallor initiated a cataclysmic event known as the Crippled God's Fall, effectively destroying his empire and killing countless people. The involvement of the thaumaturgs in the descent of the crippled god is a crucial piece, revealing their intention to use him as a weapon against Kallor, the tyrant emperor of the Kallorian Empire. The thaumaturgs, or theurgists, were the organization of mages that made up the ruling class and bureaucrats of the kingdom of the thaumaturgs in northwestern Jacuruku. Their direct involvement in the descent of the crippled god was fundamentally driven by a desire to destroy Kallor, who was viewed not only as a tyrannical ruler, but also as a threat to other realms and powers. They believed that by pulling the crippled god into the Malazan world, they could unleash a force capable of annihilating Kallor and his empire. Their plan, however, was flawed from the outset, lacking foresight and understanding of the repercussions. This action was part of a desperate bid to stop Kallor, whose reign was marked by ruthless oppression and atrocities. The thaumaturgs, in their limited wisdom, believed that summoning such a cataclysmic force would end his tyranny, but the consequences were far beyond their control. Silcius Ruin's vision to Bryce Beddick serves as a vivid recounting of that fateful day. In a shared vision, they stood atop a great pyramid, surveying the majestic city with its sophisticated architecture and lush gardens, a testament to Kallor's might and the advanced civilization he ruled. The catastrophic arrival of the crippled god, manifested as a screaming sphere engulfed in lightning, tore through the heavens and smashed into the city. This not only decimated the Kallorian Empire, but also marked the beginning of the crippled god's torturous entanglement with the Malazan world, his power corrupting lands, peoples, and the very fabric of reality. The indifference of Kallor to the calamity that his tyranny indirectly caused, and his subsequent dismissal of any responsibility for the ensuing chaos, speaks volumes of his character. Despite the destruction of his empire, he remained unrepentant, embodying the very essence of a remorseless tyrant. The elder gods, witnessing these events and the catastrophic aftermath, rightly attributed a share of the blame to Kallor, seeing in his actions the seeds of this disaster. In response to this catastrophic event, 3 elder gods who were cruel, Draconis, and sister of cold nights, cursed Kallor. The curse inflicted upon Kallor by the 3 elder gods condemned him to eternal suffering. He was cursed with an unending mortal life, experiencing the relentless passage of time and all its hardships. Despite growing old, becoming weak, and suffering from various ailments, Kallor could never die. To make matters worse, Kallor was cursed with perpetual failure in all his endeavors. No matter how grand or important his ambitions were, he never achieved success. Every pursuit he undertook was marked by misfortune, setbacks, and crushing defeat. This unending cycle of disappointment and frustration left Kallor in a state of constant despair. In a desperate attempt to counteract his physical decay caused by aging, Kallor resorted to using century candles. Century candles are described as ancient, ever-burning candles that possess unique properties. They are often found in the possession of powerful beings, such as ascendants or high-ranking individuals. These candles can burn for centuries without diminishing or extinguishing, hence their name. While these candles didn't grant him immortality, they temporarily delayed the deterioration of his body. They provided a short-lived relief, allowing him to postpone the ravages of aging for a limited time. However, despite this desperate measure, his curse ensured that he could never truly escape the passage of time or the torment of his eternal mortality. Furthermore, Kallor's inability to transcend his current state deepened his anguish. He was denied the opportunity to rise above his mortal existence and achieve a higher level of being. This deprivation of spiritual elevation kept him trapped in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction and longing. The immortality forced upon him became a merciless purgatory, devoid of any hope or chance for redemption. During his long life, he had been with so many women he lost count of them. Few stayed any length of time with him, and even with those he refused to share the secret of his longevity. Instead, he locked them in towers to be forgotten once they lost their youth. One exception was a wife who had slit her wrists and died after being offered life forever with him. He thought only madness explained her decision. Whenever he begat a child, he killed the babe immediately, considering it a mercy not to allow the women time to become attached. He had little love for philosophy. After tolerating such rubbish for centuries in his empires, he finally grew tired of the philosophers and had them tortured and executed. During his long life, he had killed his share of dragons, both pure and soul-taken, although he had always fought them one at a time. At one point in his life, he had attempted to sanctify an entire continent with himself as the center of its worship. Kallor had one particularly memorable warhorse named Vaderon, which had given up its life to save that of the High King during a battle involving Jek, Tarthano Toblakai, and Forkrul Asael. His passing through places tended to agitate ancient spirits. For a time, this whining and moaning had irritated him enough that he hunted down and slew them to quiet them, but he eventually gave this up. Legend has it that hundreds of years before the foundation of the Malazan Empire, in the 1058th year of Burn's sleep, Kallor as warlord had terrorized all of southern Genebakis in a series of ferociously cataclysmic wars which had led to the formation of the famous Grey Swords. Kallor's fortified capital and headquarters had been built on what came to be known as Seven Ruins Island. Seven Ruins was located just off the southern coast of Genebakis, probably more or less due south of the city of Ellingarth, and had received its name because of the ruined remains of Kallor's fortress stronghold and cenotaph, which could still be found hundreds of years later in the highlands of the island. Because of this history and these ruins, Seven Ruins Island had the reputation of being haunted by the ancient warlord, whose actual name, by this time, had been forgotten by the locals. In terms of power, Kallor is a formidable adversary. He is immortal, but unlike many others in the Malazan world, he has not ascended to become a god or ascendant. His power comes from his indomitable will, his military genius, and his exceptional skills as a warrior. He is known to have slain dragons and to have battled gods, demonstrating his might despite his non-ascendant status. In the lore, Kallor ruled over a massive human empire, and when 3 elder gods came to confront him due to his tyranny, he chose to destroy his empire and its people rather than surrender. He reduced his empire to ashes. In revenge, the elder gods cursed him with immortality, a cruel punishment that prevented him from dying, but also ensured that he would never find success. Kallor retaliated with his own curses against the elder gods, demonstrating his resourcefulness and resilience. Regarding his immortality, it's not a simple case of being unable to die. Kallor is cursed to mortal life unending, which means he can age and sicken. He uses something called century candles to prevent himself from aging and becoming decrepit. His immortality is a complicated matter, as he is alive forever but never achieves anything, and everything he gains eventually turns to ashes. This is a form of purgatory that he's been cursed with. Kallor's power appears to have been largely technological rather than magical. He is not a mage, but is talented in alchemy for personal enhancement. It is mentioned that Kallor found himself no good at learning magic, so he went the alchemy route and has pursued that to almost its greatest mastery. There are hints that his ancient power was based on reclaimed his.Can technology. He also might have used the sacrifice of his own people to store power in the same manner that gods naturally have, or use to perform a ritual that resulted in a magical conflagration. This is not confirmed, but is a popular theory. Kallor, the High King, is a complex and multifaceted character in the Malazan world. His psychology is deeply connected with his past actions and the curses that have been placed upon him by the elder gods, as well as the ones he placed upon them in return. Originally, Kallor ruled an empire, though the specific race of his subjects is not explicitly stated in the books, leading to speculations. One theory suggests that he was leading a human empire, as all other races are named in the series. His reign was tyrannical, resulting in the enslavement of a whole continent. When 3 elder gods, Cruel, Draconus, and the Sister of Cold Nights, intervened, Kallor decimated his own empire, reducing the continent to ashes and exterminating its inhabitants. In vengeance for this act, the elder gods cursed Kallor. Cruel condemned him to eternal life, suffering all the ravages of age, the pain of wounds, the anguish of despair, and dreams brought to ruin. Draconus decreed that Kallor would never ascend, and the Sister of Cold Nights cursed him to fall each time he rises, and for all his achievements to turn to dust in his hands. However, Kallor was not a passive recipient of these curses. Harnessing the power of the millions of deaths caused by his own actions, he, in turn, cursed the 3 elder gods. He doomed Cruel to be forgotten, Draconus to imprisonment by his own creation, and the Sister of Cold Nights to be torn apart on a battlefield. This interaction of curses has had significant impacts on both Kallor's life and the lives of the elder gods. Kallor's curse of eternal life, coupled with the condition of never being able to ascend or succeed, has led him to develop a bitter and ruthless personality. Despite his immense power, Kallor is eternally doomed to failure and loss, which fuels his cruel and destructive tendencies. The curses Kallor placed on the elder gods also had considerable effects. Cruel faded and was forgotten for a time, Nightchill was betrayed and torn apart in a battle, and Draconus was imprisoned by his own creation, Dragnipur. The curse placed upon Kallor also has had profound effects on his psychology and actions. It's not the immortality itself that torments Kallor, but rather the stipulation of never being able to succeed or achieve his desires, and that everything he gains eventually turns to ashes. This punishment is a cruel purgatory, leading to Kallor's deep-seated bitterness, a pessimistic outlook on life, and a sense of self-loathing. Kallor also embodies traits of a psychopath, demonstrating a complete lack of empathy and orchestrating the destruction of entire cities without remorse. His manipulative nature is evident in his ability to deceive and exploit others, to further his own ambitions, ultimately betraying those who trusted him. Kallor's impulsivity and recklessness lead him to make hasty decisions with no regard for the consequences, such as cursing Jacuruku with eternal suffering. With a grandiose sense of self-importance, he relentlessly pursues power and control, disregarding the well-being of those around him. Kallor shows a notable absence of guilt or remorse for his countless atrocities, reflecting a lack of emotional connection to the suffering he inflicts. These traits, combined with the curses he bears, have shaped Kallor into a figure of ruthless pragmatism. He is seen by some as a physical manifestation of ambition and the inevitable price it exacts. His existence is a testament to the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition and the inexorable cycle of revenge and retribution. Kallor is often interpreted as a symbol of ambition in the Malazan world. His character embodies a relentless pursuit of power and control, which is inextricably tied to his downfall and the curse he endures. His ambition can be traced back to the era when he was the High King, ruling a vast empire. However, it was this very ambition that led him to commit atrocities, culminating in the cataclysmic event known as the Crippled God's Fall. He devastated his own empire and caused the death of countless innocents, all in a bid to maintain his control and defy the gods who sought to intervene. His ambition didn't cease with his empire's destruction. Despite being cursed with eternal life, Kallor continued to seek power and influence, playing significant roles in the wars and conflicts of the Malazan world. He always showcased his tactical acumen and formidable fighting skills, striving to affect outcomes and pursue his goals. His ambition is so strong that it endures despite his inability to ascend to godhood and the fact that he's prophesied to rule over nothing but dust and ashes. This enduring ambition, coupled with his immortality, has made Kallor a tragic figure. He highlights the inherent destructiveness of unchecked ambition and the heavy toll it can take on the individual and those around them. He's a testament to ambition's power, both as a driving force and as a potential source of downfall.